Oh, it seems that Tony just joined us. Bem-vindos a esta segunda sessão dos projetos em direto. Desta vez vamos mudar para inglês, já temos participantes de quase todos os cantos do mundo. Welcome to this session of live projects. This time we're doing this in English, although it's done for PMI Portugal. We have some guests from around the world, and that's the reason why this will be in English. This is going to be a debate moderated by me from the PMI Portugal and a very dear volunteer of ours, José Manuel.
Okay. Good day to everyone. We have also today we have a panel of honorable guests from all over the world, as Luis was just said, and I'm very proud to begin presenting them. We have Gary Nelson, who calls from New Zealand, so other
Morning.
side of the Earth, not of the moon, but of the Earth. And Gary is author of a series of books, of adventures that has named Project Kids Adventure. Is the first, I think, the first book, and they are already available in the PM I have site, and they are being translated in Portuguese. It's a very good news by a team of our volunteers. We also have, we hope to get him in the image, Tony Van Krieken from Toronto in Canada. He has planned programs about competences in project management and for the basic school and for NGOs. He has used the methodology kit, the project that I will talk about afterwards when we present Walter Ginevri just ahead, and he has these projects with Boy Scouts in Canada. It's very interesting experience he will tell us about, certainly. Walter Ginevri, I think he's in Milan nowadays, so in between a busy travel agenda. We thank you very much for being available and being with us. It will be a very good experience. He's the author, is the one that invented the project for the future in 2007. That has been designed for teachers and volunteers of PMI Italy. I hope I'm saying the truth, but Walter will correct me if I'm misleading something. But he has a beautiful experience with schools in Italy. He has done a practice guide for teachers that is available in 13 languages in the same site of PMI. He's the mentor of the global initiative of PMI to spread project management in schools as a universal language for developing competences and skills for learning. And last but not least, I'm very proud to present our newly Isabelina Jorge, who is in Lisbon, not with us, but not far away. And she has translated the kit, and he has launched it in Portugal in 2012 as a program of PMI, our Portuguese chapter in schools. She's also responsible and co-author of the practice guide for tutors, which is a new thing, not only teachers and pupils, also tutors, volunteers that are doing the work of guiding or helping the teacher to go ahead with this program. And it is a complement to the kit and to help our schools to go ahead with this concept. As you see, we have a full world trip, and we welcome all of you. Isabelina, can you share with us how do you have met this distinguished people that is in our screens today?
Oh yeah, gladly. Hello, Walter, Gary, Tony.
Morning.
I'm so
Evening.
proud and so happy to be here again with you. Hello, Jose and Luis, my dear colleagues. Hello also for all of you that are somewhere online listening to us. Thank you for being here and for caring. And for all of them, will be hearing from us. We all join here, the participants join here this vision and this call to give back to the community, bringing project management to the younger generation. Because as Jose said, we believe that our professional tool, project management, is really, like Walter uses to say, an universal language, and one that will help in learning all through life and in developing essential skills for citizenship. And because we live it, we have given our energy and our efforts to this cause. And that's why I met these fantastic people and gentlemen. I first met Walter. Actually, I saw Walter in the Milan conference. He was the president of the Northern Italy chapter, and the EMEA Congress was there in Milan. But I just saw him. I did not meet him. And I did not know that I would be so fortunate as to meeting him virtually the next year, in 2011, when he made a call for volunteers to translate key projects from the future. And I was the one who immediately answered from Portugal to translate the kits. And it started a great adventure for me, because I not only liked very much the kit, it's a fantastic tool for the younger ones and also for the bigger ones. I learned a lot with the kits. And our tutors learn also a lot from the kids, so I recommend. And after that challenge of being a volunteer for translating the kids, I understood, and with the support of Walter and Jose, that we had to go to schools and disseminate project management using the kit. So the adventure started. And we continued to collaborate. It was a fantastic collaborator since 2011. Walter is a great volunteer manager. I was his volunteer. He was my volunteer manager and also my mentor. And then we went to Italy and Lisbon. He came to Lisbon. I came to Italy, where I met the dream team from Georgia Benza. And then we went to Dubai to present the results and lessons learned of our interchapter program on this regard. And in Dubai, there was a gentleman called Gary Nelson that watched our presentation. It was a joint presentation, Portugal, France, and Italy, in the interchapter program. And Gary was there, and he was carrying his two first books of the Project Kids Adventure series, adventure stories for kids with project management. And I looked at the books as you're talking about them, because he accepted the challenge of writing to young children, and so he lended me the books. And on doing so, I read the books. I showed the books to the teachers that I was working with schools, and they said they are great, but they are in English. And so immediately this crazy idea, well, they are in English, yes, but they should be a good thing. So what about if we translate them? And, well, there was a tutor that told me, if you want, I will translate with you, we'll do it. So that came the idea of launching a volunteer project to translate the Project Kids Adventure series from Gary Nelson. We are having fun, right, Gary?
Absolutely. Thank you, Isabelina. It's been definitely quite an adventure. and quite astonishing to have 20 volunteers that are
We have
translating
volunteers.
books.
Yes, everybody wants to participate in the translation of your books. It's
Oh, that's great.
They are having fun.
Oh, good. Definitely want to make sure they're having fun.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, and moving along very, very quickly too. I'm quite amazed. It's a very, very high-speed project. Anyway, so a little bit about the books, I guess. So they're aimed for the middle school, because in 2012 I was at a conference and ran into a PMIF booth and was talking about one of my books, and they said, well, your next one should be for children, because there isn't anything for the 9 to say 11 or 12-year-old kids. And I'm thinking, well, that's terrifying. Terrifying thought, because I'd written a book for adults and it was a bit different, being stories, and yeah, so I ended up going home with the idea. Talked with my two youngest children, who were the same age. Oh yes, that's the first book there. Guess this guy. Thank you, Isabelina. And yeah, so so with my in-house experts, asked them what would be the good topic to start with, and they treehouse or haunted house. They said, oh, definitely treehouse is more exciting. So we start with that one, and they were my first editors. So I started writing and wrote a few chapters and sat down at bedtime. So bedtime was editing time. And they said things like, they had lots and lots and lots of feedback, which was really great to be able to tell Dad to do stuff, right? Because kids love to be able to tell their parents when to do stuff, and especially doing stuff wrong. So on the first day of editing, my middle son said to me, he says, Dad, no, you can't do that. You can't introduce the adventure in the first chapter. You got to introduce the characters more first. So back and rewriting. So it's been a really, really good family experience as well. Giving the kids a lot of experience in the writing process, and just having fun with Dad too.
So then one of these days, Tony rang at our door, at Walter's door and my door, visually speaking, and he wanted to know about our experiences in schools, and that's how we met our dear colleague Tony van Krieken, who is now working using the kit with Boy Scouts Canada, and also Gary Nelson's books.
Isabelina, let me just interrupt you to check if Tony is with us, because we have his signal here, but no video. Are you with us, Tony? No, I guess not. That's these things happen when you're doing live stuff. I hope he will be with us soon. Isabelina, would you like to share with us how you first crossed Walter Ginevri? We know it was in Milan. No, in Milan you just saw him.
No, I just saw him. Well, Walter wanted the kit to be translated to be a global resource. Walter, I'm talking for you, huh? You interrupt me, right?
But you are talking well, fantastic. Go ahead.
So Walter was asking for volunteers to translate kit in several languages, and there I was in the Portuguese conference, 2011, June, and José Ángel Pinto, the president at that time, echoed that call for volunteers from Walter, and I just raised my hand like that. And so, after a while, Walter and I received a mail from José Ángel Pinto that said like that: Walter, meet Isabelina, and Isabelina, meet Walter. This was the first sentence of José Ángel Pinto's mail, and then we met and then started working together. And didn't stop yet. It's nice. It's great. Thank you, Walter.
Thanks.
I see now we have Tony with us. Can you hear us, Tony?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Tony. Welcome.
How are you doing?
The sound
Are you
perfect, I'm afraid. Let's go to Walter to see how he came across this kind of crazy idea to have a project management methodology set up for kids. Would you like to share us with us, Walter?
Yes, thanks, Luis. First of all, thanks to Isabelina and Gary for their kind words. I want to start with some details because it's important to recognize the merit of this journey to the people who started, who had the vision. Everything started in 2006 when Carlo Notari, the former president of the chapter, had this vision. You know, as Martin Luther King said, I have a dream, and he didn't say, I have a plan. In fact, Carlo Notari said we need to do something for the society. We are a professional association, but we are part of the society. So we need to do something, and we must start from the school, and in particular from the primary school. At that time, I must admit, skeptical, because it seemed to be a sort of big challenge to start from the beginning. But today, after almost 10 years, I can say that it was the right direction. Carlo had the vision. For me, it was quite easy to start this adventure because my wife is a school teacher, a primary school teacher, so we could establish a common interest. I could involve other teachers and other volunteers, and the kit was developed thanks to many experiments performed in the schools in Milan. And then in 2008, thanks to the presentation in the Congress of the PMI, the Educational Foundation was interested in this experience, and they provided a strong support for the translation. Another detail important, today the kit is available in 14 languages because there is a new entry that is the Arabic. So if we consider the population speaking this language as a primary language, we can reach about 2 billion people in the planet. That is a good number. Since I think that we have connected some people who want to know more about this idea and about the kit. The kit is simply a methodology adapted for developing school projects in the class through a cooperative work between the teachers and the students. This school project is developed through a sequence of steps, of 7 steps, starting from the idea, the original idea, and then following the typical step of a project, the creativity part, the creative part, the definition of the project objective, the project results, through a brainstorming that is stimulated by the teacher, and then following the steps of planning using the typical tools of project management, like the WBS, like the calendar, like the traffic lights for measuring the state of the art of the project itself, and concluding the project with the final session of lesson learned. What I want to send to the people, the message that I want to send to the people for expressing my idea and my feeling about this experience is that, as Isabelina said, that the project management is really a powerful language. It's a language, a universal language that can be used by everyone, and in particular by young students, because they are creative, they are intuitive, they are interested in doing something new. So if we consider the importance of project management as a life skill that can be transferred to the students, we can provide for them something very, very useful. On the other side, as project manager practitioners, we have a great opportunity. The opportunity of contributing to the society, and I want to mention an interesting presentation done by I don't remember, Daniel Pink. Is a presentation related to the science of motivation. And in this presentation, Daniel underlined the importance of three motivators that are mastery, autonomy, and purpose. Autonomy in the sense of doing something with a space of freedom, mastery, learning something new every day, and purpose, doing something which makes sense. In my opinion, this experience in the school as a volunteer is the best way for practicing this kind of motivations, to have the autonomy of interacting with teachers and with school directors and with students, the possibility of learning something new, because project management is a great discipline and you can learn every day something new. And finally, this is evident, the idea of doing something that has a purpose, a specific purpose, to provide life skills for the students and to prepare them for the future. So this is the summary of my experience after many years. And if this happened, the merit is must be recognized to the volunteers like Isabelina, like Gary, like many people. I can mention a long list of people who had the same passion and enthusiasm, and they are continuing to send this message of the importance of project management as a life skill, as a fundamental discipline to be promoted in the school.
And it must feel great to just a few years afterwards to see that someone from almost the other side of the planet works on your idea and introduces it to Boy Scouts Canada, like Tony did. Right, Tony? You want to tell us about it?
There you go. Well, can you hear me first?
Yes. Now we can hear you.
Okay, good. Thank you. I just had some little problem. I belong to the PMI Southern Ontario chapter here in Canada, and we wanted to do some work to try to understand what work was done in Canada, in North America. Because I've done a lot of volunteer work for the PMI, I decided to go global, and I contacted Walter and Isabella, and they gave me a lot of good insights. What they did with children, and I talked to some people within England and then within the United States. Just recently, about a couple of weeks ago, I developed some PowerPoint presentations for Scouts Canada for 3 different age groups. And I was asked to do one for the 14 to 16 years old. I was asked to do it in 90 minutes flat. So it was quite interesting. The presentation is based upon Walter's material itself. So I've taken a lot of some of Walter's PowerPoints, follow the same approach, and then tune it into Scouts Canada. Their experiences with weekend camps and cooking and things like that. So I started to use those examples. Within this package for the 14 to 16 years old, I also discussed risk management. So if you're setting up a camp, what are some of the risks involved? So the kids tended to like it. My sponsor, John, is on the board of directors of Scouts Canada. So after 90 minutes, everybody got a good feel to it. So he made the gesture then to get permission from Southern Ontario chapter to look at the other units in Greater Toronto and out of Toronto, to meet other scouts and to do similar presentations. And I wanted to go from the 6-year-old, 6 to 8, and then from 8 to 10 and 14 to 7 to work on that. So I'm talking to a board member tomorrow to get permission to get the Southern Ontario chapter agreed with approaching Scouts in Greater Toronto itself. One of the other things that John had mentioned was to contact the other Scouts units throughout Canada itself. Canada goes from the Atlantic to the Pacific, so we have 10 provinces. We have a number of chapters throughout Canada. So I need the Southern Ontario's permission to contact the other chapters, who can then contact the Scouts units and saying, hi, we have somebody in Ontario that's developing some packages. How can we work together from a volunteer base? So I'm just a newbie trying to start off and rely upon what Walter and Isabella has done. So there's a lot of potential. I've also have created a couple of proposals to the Board of Education in the Greater Toronto and the York region, which is another county just north of Toronto. So hopefully with Scouts Canada, with its presentation, if I can do with the younger age groups, then I want to take it into the Boards of Education and say that my approach is hands-on. I'm not into theory. I'm saying take an example and go with it. If they wanted to create a fair or within the school, or if they want to create a play within the school, how would they do so? And they get some practical experience. With the Scouts Canada, I forgot to mention, we did the presentation, and then at the end of October, they're going for a 3-day camping. So the intention from John is they apply project management to their camping, and then afterwards we'll review it from a lessons learned. So there's a lot of potential from that approach. So I do want to give my thanks to Walter and Isabella for all the support they've given, and to Gary. I haven't touched base with Gary on his gestures that he's made. I just want to get some permission to hit the other Scouts, and then I'll work closely with Gary himself in New Zealand with the kids and see what we can do from here. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You're very welcome. And I'm sure that both Walter and Isabelina appreciate your working upon their work. And I'm sure that basically Walter must be very happy for it.
Now, oh yeah, before I forget to mention, the PMI Education Foundation is looking at badges, and Scouts Canada is also interested in the same thing. So I'll talk to John about creating badges for Scouts so they can wear their little badges after they go through the training program.
Yeah.
One thing that intrigued me when I first learned that you were introducing this methodology within Boy Scouts Canada was that I had the notion that Boy Scouts was some kind of a closed environment, not that opened to new things coming on. But actually, that is not so, is it?
No, that is not so. One of the things that I found out, I went through the literature, and they got a thing called plan, do, and review, which is basically project management. And I took that concept and I put another phase called initiation, which is the concept. So I took their plan, what they actually do, and then stuck the concept, and I said, here's project management. I also took a video that I found of Scouts Canada, and where they talk about plan, do, and review. And I showed that presentation, the video, and the audience said they recognized some people from the video in their area. So that was a nice touch. So when I developed the package, I tried to tune as much to how they were teaching the boys, and also girls are included, is what did they teach when on leaderships, of how to set up their plans, how to set up a campfire, how to do camps, 1-day camps, 3-day camps. And I just continued to elaborate upon that. When I went into risk management, we talked about bears. What do you do with the food? Well, you put it up in a tree and you put it up there. What else do? You do these other things. So that's how I related to the boys and girls there, is just what they have done, and I've taken examples of project management to relate to it. And I hope it was successful.
What was the first project that we did with Boy Scouts?
Sorry?
What was your first project using this
No,
methodology?
this is the first one. The first presentation was 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
That was it.
In progress.
How to set up a camp, a 3-day camp. So that's how John wanted to approach, and see what the response was. They seemed to be favorable. So we're now just getting approval from the Ontario Southern Chapter and from Scouts Canada that we'd like to hit the other units. This unit had about 20 people. So it's a small group, and John knew each one quite well. So he just wanted to actually experience it. So I'm just at a starting point. That's all I am.
Okay, that is great to be able to participate in the starting point of something like that. Thank you very much. Isabelina, how were you able to help Bruni during this starting up all this process?
How did I start the process? Oh, well, as I said previously, the first challenge was this volunteer work to translate the kits. And when I translated the kit and the process, I interacted with Walter all the time. And I realized that that was a very good tool to bring to school, but I wanted very much to do it. So I started talking to Walter and talking also to José and Jean-Pierre, the president, and they were all very supportive about going about the idea. And so we prepared a pilot. So we looked for a grouping of schools to do a pilot, and we started a pilot in the grouping of schools Patrício Prazeres in Lisboa. Actually, the sign of the protocol with the schools were, we have the presence of Walter and Mary Moresco, the intellectual authors of the kit. They came to Lisbon to sign the protocol. It was a very good day.
For me too, for us too.
Yeah, it was a very good day. And we all ended lunching in the Museu do Azulejo, because one of the projects of the pilot project was My School Adopts a Museum. It was a project where the 7th, 8th, and 9th year students would create art to exhibit on one of the most beautiful museums that we have. It's the Museu Nacional do Azulejo. And so it was our choice to have lunch and to visit to finish our launching of the first pilot of PMI Portugal nas escolas. And then went on, we have in private schools and public schools, and we have had experiences in the first, what you call the first cycle, which is the 1st to 4th year, second cycle, the 5th to 6th year. You know all about this now, Gary, right?
I definitely do, yes. Yeah.
And the 3rd cycle, which is from 7th year to the 9th year. And we also had experience in the 10th year already. So what we concluded is that although the methodological kit projects from the future is presented as a kit for primary school, or primarily for primary school, in Portugal we have completely tested that it is a good tool, a good kit to every year from the 1st to the 12th one. So, and we can also use it at home, and I have this crazy idea that would be a nice thing to use it in the non-profit organization that they need very much project management with simple tools for them to monitor, to plan and monitor. Probably one of these days we launch such a program.
Let me build on that and ask Walter, how does he feel that you, Isabelina, built on his work and came up with this tutoring model that is always translated into several languages and published on the PMI-EF website. How does that feel, Walter?
This is an example of the network of the PMI and the network of the PMI Educational Foundation. The fact that if you connect many people with the same interest, in this case the promotion of a language in the school, you can generate a significant added value. In fact, at that time, the only document that was available was the definition of the approach to follow, the steps to follow with all the details. What Isabelina did in Portugal was a great experience in the engagement and training and supporting the volunteers, project manager involved in this kind of initiatives. In fact, she involved many people in this adventure, and thanks to this experience, she could create the document called the Practice Guide for Tutors. It is very helpful for a tutor in order to approach and to select the best approach for involving volunteers and for involving people. So this is an example of the value that can be generated through this relationship. In addition to that, I wanted to clarify another aspect for the people attending this session. After the first 4 or 5 years of the experimentation, one of the points that was not so clear was the direct link between the effect of this experience on the learning processes of the students. And fortunately, I found a set of documents on the web, most of them issued by American and English organization of teachers. And this approach was based upon 4 basic life skills. It was called the 4 C's life cycle, because it is an acronym of 4 C's. They are creative thinking, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. And for me, it was like the discovery of the America, because I realized finally the link between the methodology, a language of project management typically used in the business world, and the final destination of this language in the school, that is to promote creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. In fact, today I am convinced that the best gym, the best place, the best environment for practicing and improving these 4 basic life skills is the project. I cannot imagine a different environment where these abilities can be improved. And in addition to that, recently I discovered other organizations that are doing the same, are going in the same direction. I can mention 2 of them. One is the Buck Institute of Education, BUCK, Institute of Education. And they are promoting the project-based learning, which means the use of project as an environment for learning. And I suggested to people to look at the website, because it's an example of what is going on in the innovation in the schools. And another association that is linked with the PMI Educational Foundation is called Partnership for 21st Century Skills. They are doing the same. They are focusing the attention of the new curricula, the new school systems, on project management in order to generate the turnaround, to promote a real change in the school systems, in the school curricula, thanks to the introduction of project management best practices. This is what we have in front of us, and we are many people now. We are not one or single volunteer or dreamers.
What I find most interesting about this.
All very committed. So what we need to do now is to extend our network, to use different media, because Gary for me was a discover. I didn't know books of speaking of project management for kids, and he was another great discover of my long journey. So if we put together these people and we put together their ideas in a sort of collective brains, we can really change something. And the discover of the fact that in Canada there are Boy Scouts using the project management, for me is another fantastic opportunity, because Boy Scouts are everywhere and they have a similar imprinting. Unfortunately, I was not a Boy Scout in my youth, but I think that is a great experience. So
I find the two things.
We have many weapons now. We are quite an army, very effective, very very strong.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Walter, but there are two things that I find particularly interesting in all this. The first one is that you build on each other's work, and you enjoy that. Each one brings something different to the project.
Yeah.
The second thing is that you all do the things differently. Isabelina is doing a tutor-based introduction of the methodology. You worked directly with the schools in Italy, and Tony is doing it directly with the Boy Scouts. Isn't that so, Tony?
Yeah, I'm working directly with the Scouts themselves. So what I want to also try to do is to try with the Girls Guides as well. So be an interesting perspective.
And Gary hasn't started working on it yet, but he found a never-ending source of topics to write about within the project management and the kids. The first book was about the treehouse, and that's pretty straightforward. But then you kept on going, right?
Yeah. So the Ultimate Treehouse, the scariest haunted house project ever, amazing science fair project, and I'm really worried that Isabelina is going to be ready before I am to translate the fourth one, which is the Valentine's Day Project Disaster. Yeah, and also I'd like to say so Tony, I have been a Boy Scout. I'm a leader. Been a Scouts for a long time, and definitely it's very, very applicable. Most of my project learnings before I even knew what project management was came from my time as being a Scout or growing into the older sections, from Cubs all the way up, and particularly as being a young leader and having the fortune to have some very good role models and mentors as a leader. A lot of the stuff that I learned came out of that, so it's definitely the right place to start, Tony. And Walter, it is. I find it quite amazing how small things like this can make a big difference, and maybe small differences. A colleague of mine, and I just published the first book, and gave it to a project management colleague of mine, and her own children were only like 1 and 2 years old, so obviously not old enough to read it. But her nieces were older; they were both about 9 and 10, and they were lovely little girls, absolute terrors in the kitchen. They would go into the kitchen and they would say, "Want to cook, Mom?" And they'd be pulling out pans and pots and ingredients and stuff. "Oh, Mom, we're out of this." And they'd have to leave the house and go to the grocery store with the house in a big mess. And so she gave my first book to the two girls, and they both read it, in turn. And then a couple of weeks later, her sister, the daughter's mother, came into the kitchen, and both girls were standing at the counter quietly, with a pen and a piece of paper. And she said, "What are you doing?" And she says, "We're cooking, Mom. Planning is cool." She's like, "What have you done with my daughters? This is wonderful." So it's really, really encouraging to hear some real life stories of how small differences are being made, but it's got to be really gratifying for you, Walter, to have things go so wide.
Absolutely. But where do you find your topics to write about? I mean, you're just about to finish your fourth book, right?
Yes. So I mean, it's an editing process right now. So that's the Valentine's Day Project Disaster. So the books are all written for middle school age. So as I said earlier, when I was speaking with Diane from the PMA Education Foundation, when I was at a leadership meeting in Vancouver about just mentioning the first books, she said, "Well, there's lots of stuff for the high school level. Basically 13 years old and up. There's a lot of work being done there." And there was one book that had been written with a picture book by Ira, I forget his last name, sorry. And it was a picture book for kindergarten kids. It was all about a beaver. Beavers making a dam for preparing for winter and everything else, before the snow flies. It's a really cute little book. And she said there's absolutely nothing in the middle. So, working up. So before I had my own kids, I was a scout leader for 11 years. And that plus also having children at that same age, at the time of starting the ideas, thinking about the books, is plus of course I was a kid a long time ago as well. It was a really good starting point for thinking about how kids think, how kids interact, and what kind of stuff interests kids. But frankly, I was too old to have a proper opinion when I started. So, which is why I went to my experts and asked my 9 and 10-year-old boys, what's cool and what's interesting, what would be good to read about. So, as I said, I started writing, and it was a bit of a terrifying process, because the last time, I've been I did some things in high school, university, but dialogue was just something that I've never was very good at. When you're 19 or 20, or even 18, it's pretty rough start. Anyway, so I wasn't even sure I could do it, but I wrote it with the kids. They gave me lots of feedback. By the time we got around to multiple rewrites of the first few chapters, got around to about chapter 8, the kids were settling down from chipping in every 30 seconds to provide some piece of feedback to starting to settle in and enjoy this story. By about chapter 10, they were actually just going along with it. So I was getting to the right spot. Then took the half finished book to their teachers in the primary school. Between the two of them, they had 3 different teachers, and they read the book. They provided, or the first half, they provided lots of feedback in terms of, is the language level right? What's the what's the reading level? What do we do with the technical terms? And so they provided some feedback, which I went back and used in rewriting. But they said some interesting things. They said, keep the technical terms in there. You can have a glossary or whatever, but keep the technical terms in there, because that will get the children asking questions, from the teachers or their parents. So the books are kind of interesting because they are kind of unique, I guess, because they're really instructional fiction. So they're full-length novels for kids, about 230 so on pages. So they're all chapter books with an engaging story, that this grows across the series of books. However, they all have some formal lessons in them as well. So the kids do what kids do. They come up with ideas, and in the treehouse, one of the boys, though, because there's 4 boys, 4 girls, and you know, they're all around about the same age, and there's, you know, brothers and sisters, and, you know, just 1 or 2 of the boys are twins and all that kind of stuff. You get all those mixing up of, you know, big brother, big sister kind of problems, and the boys find this. One of the boys finds this big tree in the local forest, which is really just a city park, just between their house and the school. And so he gets a fantastic idea to start building this ultimate tree house with his buddies and his 3 other best friends. And they just, of course, like boys, they get started. And, you know, they get the hammer, they get the wood, and they get some nails, and they're off into the forest to start building this thing, and have no idea where to start. You know, don't have some of the skills or the planning or anything else. Actually, none of the planning. That was, I guess, part of the point. And so they start on this venture, and this tree is actually too high for them to climb into easily. They can't skinny up the trunk. They have to get up on each other's shoulders to get up there, you know, scrape their belly, and it's a bit of a rough start. So they think this is great because it'll be perfect because no one else will be able to get into our treehouse, but we'll make a rope ladder. So they get the first platform up there after a lot of work, and they decide, okay, well, we're going to do a rope ladder. Well, none of them actually knows how to tie a knot. Obviously, none of them are Boy Scouts yet. So you know, so they basically abandon that effort, and they just, you know, still at the stage of you know, climbing into each other's shoulders to get up into the tree. And the sister, is a girl guide actually. So there you go, Tony. You got a lead in there. Observes the brothers that are the brother and the other boys that are taking off into this forest. And of course, the source of wood they're using is you know, from their own backyard. The father replaced the fence. So there's lots of materials and stuff for the kids to work with, and got permission to do all that stuff. So she follows them to see what they're doing, because all the boys secret stuff, and gets out a little compass and sees where they enter the forest and the direction they were going, and sets it down on the compass and walks in, you know, basically 20 meters and finds them at the tree, and observes them in this horrible, desperate mess of trying to set up a rope ladder and just having no luck at all. And she says, well, I can help. And they're like, no, go away. You're a girl. Right? So I says, oh, but I know how to do that. She goes, go away. We don't need your help. So she goes off in a mad home, and to talk to Mom, of course. Mom's not there. She's out getting some last-minute groceries. But Dad's there, and Dad happens to be a project manager. And she says, boys are stupid. He says, what, all boys? No, not you, Dad. Not you, Dad. You know, like boys, like Ben, you know, and his friends. And he says, well, what's the problem? And, you know, so she starts to explain the fact that they're doing this treehouse thing, and they won't let her help, and because they don't know how to do what they need to do, and she knows how to do it. And he says, well, what's that? You know, doing a rope ladder and things like that, because I know how to do those. I've made that before, you know, in Girl Guides. And he said, well, if the boys won't let you help, why don't you make your own treehouse? She's like, what? He said, well, yeah, why not? Girls are just as capable as boys, so why don't you and the other girls, your friends, go and make your own treehouse? So they decided, well, that's it. He said, but do you want to do it better than your brother? Do you want to make a better treehouse than your brother? She's like, oh, of course, you know, I want to make a way better treehouse than Ben. And so he says, but do you want to make it easier and faster than your brother? Well, now she's really interested, because of course, you know, she's the older, you know, Ben's a younger brother, and he's obviously a bit of a twit in her eyes, and you got to do better than your brother, you know, way better than them, and faster and better and everything. So how do we do that, Dad? And he says, well, you have to do it as a project. She's like, oh, Dad, not work stuff. So he said, well, you need a little bit of this work stuff to actually do this properly. So he starts down with the basic lessons, you know, the project phases, gets all very formal voice, you know, and he says, you know, projects have 5 stages. You know, they've got the 5 major stages. They have initiation, they have planning, they have execution. Oh my gosh, you don't kill people, Dad, do you? And close out, and he's thinking, well, sorry, maybe,
may I interrupt?
Maybe.
Next book, probably the 5th book, you have to introduce the projects from the future methodology, so you don't have that 5 stages thing.
Yes.
Can I say something?
Yeah. Before that, just let me tell you that we're about to end our time. It's been 54 minutes. So what I'd really like to do, unless you're very, very quick about what you want to say, can you do that, Isabelina?
Oh, it's just a comment, because
Okay.
I have been reading this, the Ultimate 3 Hours Project for the last month over and over, both in English and in Portuguese translated, and I never had so much fun as the one. So I'm going to tell my tutors and the translators to listen to this piece of video by Gary, so they will have fun while reading the book, because it's really good performer. Thank you.
That's a nice thought.
Thank you.
But what I would like to challenge you for the next few minutes is to imagine what will be next on your agenda while mixing kids, project management, Boy Scouts, the Project from the Future, the PMI Portugal at School initiative, the children books. What's next for you? What would you like to see? May I start with you, Tony?
As I mentioned, I'm just starting, so I just want to get my feet a little wet. It was very interesting. I was mentioned I'm doing a PhD program in disaster management and community resilience, and my senior supervisor, we were talking back and some forwards about project management, and she was mentioning about some work she's doing in Bangladesh, and she was doing a board game on disaster management. And I said, that's quite interesting. And she had some problems with it, that the funding didn't go too well. And I said, okay, give me the material. I'm going to send it to Walter and Isabella just to get some ideas. And she said, well, they're not into disaster management, they're project. I said, no, but they're all teachers. So I find it quite interesting listening to everybody talking here and listening to my senior supervisor, who's very much designed, that I find a lot of parallels. Some of the techniques that we're using is some of the techniques that is also used in disaster management, especially with Red Cross and the large NGOs. So that's about where my future direction is. I want to proceed with doing these kits for Scouts Canada, for the Girl Guides, for the Boards of Education, and then apply those same techniques within the disaster management area. And I think there will be a lot of traction.
I can imagine that. Yeah. What about you, Walter? What do you hope that will happen in the future with your projects from the future? What other initiatives are there for you?
Yes, in my mind, I have only one direction. Direction is the PMI Educational Foundation, and this means that thanks to them, I can reach other large organizations, as I mentioned before, like P20, 21st Century Skills, and other organizations focus on the innovation in the school. So the point is to contribute and to work together with the people of the Education Foundation for creating this kind of links that can generate a significant added value. In addition to that, another objective of the future is the institution of credentials, of micro-credential for teachers and students. Because when a teacher is experimenting project management for many years, we must recognize something more than a certificate of attendance or a present, but something tangible.
Right.
So without creating a conflict of an overlapping with the professional credentials like PMP, etc., but recognizing the competence, acquired by the teachers and by the students. And this is another way for spreading the message and for making these people proud and aware of their growth, their improvement in terms of knowledge. So my future is in the PMIF family, in order to extend and to empower the network and hopefully to reach the final target. The final target are the decision makers at governmental level.
Mm-hmm.
They are the only person who can change and improve the school system.
Yeah,
To reach them, we must build a sort of alliance between different organizations that are focused on the same goal, project-based learning, and to have a sort of critical mass.
Yeah, and that would take another project's life on itself just to debate that topic. Gary, can I ask you some really quick comment about what's next for you? We're just now over time.
Yeah, no problem. So obviously trying to get the fourth book finished in time for Isabelina's team to start translating it. So yeah, it oddly enough, translation seems to take a lot less time than writing it. but that's all right. That's all right. And actually,
people, just one writer and several translators and revisers. Remember, I have 20. I have a team of 20 ready.
That is true. That is true. So I guess the force of numbers, and also. Of course, getting all of the books in Portuguese out and published now that they're all coming through. So I'm in the process right now of getting the paperback always come first, and then the ebooks, because the paper formatting is the tricky part, and then you unformat to make ebooks to a degree. So those will be coming out in a series as the translations get finished. So that's me for the next little while, and then I have no idea what book number 5 will be. When I started, I knew what the first 2 books would be, and then I had no idea what 3 and 4 would be, and then all of a sudden they both came to me, and so they seem to come in pairs. So I don't know what the next 2 will be.
Gary, may I suggest a title for the 5th book?
Good.
Sure.
Allies in Project Land.
There is an Alice in the book, so that could work.
Yeah.
Okay. Isabelina, just before Zemanel wraps up all this, what's next for you?
We work with teachers, as you know. We have a tutoring approach, was directly teacher, not directly with children. And we have several projects in our program, EME Portugal at Schools. One of the projects is the accreditation project that has already started. We have already talked to the General Direction of Education for it. We are trying to get accreditation for our program, for tutoring approach, so that teachers on doing doing project management with the kids with their classes and presenting the final results, they would get credits for that work. So we are doing it. It's not an easy thing, but we are very much closer now. And we'll continue to work with Gary. We continue to work with our mentor Walter and the Italian team. I want very much to pursue this. I have now 2 program manager assistants to help me in preparing a mainstreaming phase where we will face more schools. And the things that I like to hear is like this morning on a school in Almada, Fernão Mendes Pinto, the director, told me that she absolutely believes that the learning process in schools should be done through projects. And so I thought it was going to have 2 or more interactions. In the first interaction, she said, when do we start? So we are going to start next week in Almada. This is great. The last thing I would like is that one of these days, the project area, that was an area that existed some years ago in our schools, would be reborn again, so that schools would have the possibility of allocating time to boast and promote learning to the development of projects and the practice of project management. Because when that will happen, I will be certainly preparing another adventurous project in another area.
Okay, good. Isabelina, I must say that we missed the conclusion of this project by 5 minutes, but it was for a noble cause. So I would say that I must absolutely thank all of you, Gary, Isabelina, Tony, Walter, and Luis, for being available for this Projects Live session of today. And I also wish that you are happy with what we have been listening here. I have been. It was a lot of interesting things and fun. And we hope that you will return for the next session, will be in January. But before that, please attend our Portuguese conference in early November. You can go to our site, pmi-portugal.org. And also for these Projects Live sessions, please come with your ideas. We are more than welcome to hear them and to know your preferences. Just a final word of good morning, good day, or good evening, because we are really global on this session. To all of you, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Take care of yourself.